I'm Trench Reynolds. I write crime. Since I mentioned it in the last episode, I thought we would talk about the Rocori High School shooting. Cold Spring, Minnesota, September 24th, 2003. A small town, a quiet high school, and a 15-year-old kid carrying his father's .22 caliber Colt pistol in his gym bag. Nobody knew it yet, but Rocori High was about to get carved into America's bloody ledger of school shootings. John Jason McLaughlin, 15 years old, severe acne, shy, withdrawn. The kind of kid neighbors described as quiet. But quiet doesn't mean harmless. And that morning, McLaughlin was about to prove it. The shooting started in a school hallway. McLaughlin spotted his target, 14-year-old Seth Bartell. He pulled the pistol, raised it in a two-handed grip. Witnesses said he wore a smirk, like he knew exactly what he was doing. The first bullet hit Seth in the side. Seth staggered, but kept moving, scrambling for safety. McLaughlin fired again. The second shot missed Seth, but tore into the neck of 17-year-old Aaron Rollins. He wasn't the target. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Aaron collapsed, bleeding out in the hallway. His gym teacher tried to comfort him, telling him he was loved. His last words were chilling. "Help me, I'm shot." But he never spoke again. Meanwhile, Seth made it into the gymnasium. McLaughlin followed. He closed the distance, pressed the barrel inches from Seth's forehead, and fired. The bullet tore through Seth's hat, leaving a half-inch hole, and lodged in his skull. Seth Bartell held on for 16 days in a hospital bed before dying. 2 boys, 2 families, 2 futures erased. McLaughlin was quickly disarmed by a teacher and led to the counselor's office. He sat there for 15 minutes, staring at the wall. Police asked if he acted alone. He barely muttered, "Yes." The chief later said McLaughlin came off as cocky. That's the word. Not broken, not shocked, cocky. And yet his defense would spin a different story. That he was insane. That voices made him do it. That he didn't mean to kill. That all he wanted to do was wound. But we'll get there. Fast forward to 2005, St. Cloud, Minnesota. The courtroom is packed. By now, McLaughlin is 17. He pleads guilty to the murders of Seth Bartell and Aaron Rollins, but not without a catch. His real play was to have the court declare him insane. See, he didn't want to spend his life behind bars. No, his attorneys had a softer landing in mind. A secure psychiatric hospital. A place, as one prosecutor pointed out, McLaughlin could order pizza and play video games between therapy sessions. That was the end game. Not freedom, comfort. The prosecution wasn't having it. The state lined up witnesses who left no doubt. One student testified he saw McLaughlin calmly pull the pistol from his gym bag and fire. Another saw him carefully aim, a smirk curling his lips. A teacher said he raised the gun deliberately, like a marksman on the range. And then came the families. Aaron's father, Tom Rollins, a first responder, testified he knew the look of death from experience. He saw that same look in his son's eyes as Aaron lay dying on the school floor. Kim Bartell, Seth's mother, said her son's killer had no remorse. After conviction, McLaughlin told corrections officers that if he could do it over, he'd simply get closer before pulling the trigger. Not regret, not sorrow, just efficiency. Then there were the emails. McLaughlin sent bizarre messages from the account Sharpest Shot 290 to a girl named Brittany Kelly. He wrote rambling nonsense like hi hi hi, hi hi, for pages ending with goodbye. Another read okay, 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 endlessly, interrupted only by Steve says hi too. Sometimes he wrote under the alias of Soki Renoko, a fake girlfriend. In those, he described himself as a cold, steely action figure, a sniper, a tough guy, a fantasy version of himself. Prosecutors said the emails were proof of premeditation. The defense said they were symptoms of schizophrenia. The truth would come down to who you believed. Under Minnesota law, the McNaughton rule sets a high bar. To be found legally insane, you have to prove you didn't know right from wrong or couldn't grasp the nature of your acts. The defense rolled out psychiatrist Dr. Maureen Hackett. She claimed McLaughlin was schizophrenic, that he heard voices, that he had an imaginary trench-coated mentor named Jake, whose hair and coat changed colors, that he saw DEA agents in the woods, that he saw dead people hanging in detention. It was a circus. The prosecution brought their own experts. They said his supposed visions were lifted straight from movies and TV. The Sixth Sense, A Beautiful Mind, even The Simpsons. One psychologist testified flat out, he wasn't hallucinating, he was faking it, and the judge agreed. July 2005. Judge Michael Kirk delivers his decision. McLaughlin, he said, might have had some mental impairment, but the facts told a different story. He stole his father's gun while his dad was in the shower. He checked the school for security cameras. He wrote Brittany Kelly a farewell note. He loaded the pistol in a bathroom to avoid getting caught. And when his first shot didn't kill Seth, he pursued him and fired point blank into his skull. That's not insanity, that's calculation. August 30th, 2005. Families addressed the court. Aaron Rollins' mother held up a family portrait and said, "Jason handed us all a life sentence without parole, and he should get the same." The judge sentenced McLaughlin to life in prison for Seth Bartell, with the possibility of parole in 30 years. For Aaron Rollins, he added 12 years consecutive. That makes 38 years minimum before parole. A 15-year-old boy who once thought prison was worth it if he could hurt Seth Bartell now had nearly 4 decades to sit with that decision. But the story didn't end there. In 2006, the families filed wrongful death suits against the Rocori School District, the former principal, McLaughlin himself, and his father, Deputy David McLaughlin. They claimed the school ignored warnings, security equipment didn't work, and that Jason had unlimited access to his father's weapons. The district denied everything, calling the allegations baseless. The lawsuits were dismissed on technicalities, then appealed. Eventually, the district and the McLaughlins' insurance settled. $200,000 split between the two families, a pittance compared to the loss of 2 sons. Meanwhile, McLaughlin's attorneys appealed his conviction, arguing Minnesota's insanity law was outdated and too strict, especially for juveniles. The Minnesota Supreme Court shot that down in 2007. They ruled the defense hadn't raised the issue at trial, and besides, the McNaughton rule was staying put. So McLaughlin stayed put too, right in his cell. So here's what we're left with. 2 boys, one who charms his teachers enough to wear a hat in his yearbook photo, another who begged for help as his life slipped away. Families left with portraits and memories instead of sons. And a shooter who smirked as he fired, sat cocky in silence afterward, and tried to sell the court a story about voices and trench-coated phantoms. He thought he could trade life in prison for a hospital stay with pizza and PlayStation. But the judge didn't buy it. Neither did the families, neither should we. This wasn't bullying, this wasn't madness, this was premeditation. And in the end, John Jason McLaughlin got exactly what he deserved. And that's the story. Another kid who thought he could game the system, fake his way into an insanity plea, and spend his life in a hospital where the biggest decision is what pizza toppings to order. Instead, he got a concrete box and a 38 years minimum to think about it. Thank you for listening. If you want the whole archive, stuff that doesn't always make it onto YouTube, You know where to go, realcrime.net. 25 years of me digging into these stories. One of my latest posts is about a fatal school stabbing that was spurred on by a gun. Links for those and all my socials can be found below. And if you want to keep this going and keep the lights on, please visit patreon.com/Trench Reynolds. Every bit of support matters. Special thanks go out to my patrons Mare and Trish. And I know you're probably tired of hearing this, but it really does help out. Please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It makes a big difference in growing the channel. Until next time, keep your pizza warm. I'm Trench Reynolds, and I rate crime.